All right. Let me also get in Venu Rajamony at this time, India's former ambassador to Netherlands. Ambassador Rajamony, thank you very much for joining us. You were on CNBC-TV18 last evening when the news broke, and Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri announced that we are stopping all firing and military action. But there is a difference in the wording between what the Indian government has said and the US has said. Why do you think India is circumspect right now? And what is it that we have to keep in mind and be watchful for over the next 2 to 3 days?
Well, first and foremost, we would like to see the ceasefire hold, I think. We have witnessed all the action which took place overnight, though at the same time, both sides, I think, are reiterating their faith in the ceasefire. It is not clear as to why those violations of the ceasefire continue to happen. So I would say that the number one priority now should be for the ceasefire to hold and extend over a fairly long period of time. Please keep in mind that before Pahalgam, there was a ceasefire in place on the line of control. We had stopped all kinds of artillery firing at each other. So that should also hold. There should not be action of any kind, ideally, because it causes tremendous suffering to the people in the border areas. But going beyond that, I think the question is whether we would move into some kind of a discussion with Pakistani authorities on a broad range of issues in a third site, which this is what the US has said is part of the deal. While if you would recall Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri's statement yesterday, he made it clear that there has been no agreement on discussions on any other issues. So would there be talks to begin talks? Would there be backroom channels which will operate to see if some kind of a larger discussion of all major issues in India-Pakistan relations, including the fight against terrorism, can begin? I would say that would be the second biggest priority.
Sure. Ambassador Rajamony, good morning, sir. Thank you for joining in. And exactly on that point, because the central issue remains terrorism, right? I think yesterday in that speech that the Pakistani Prime Minister gave, there was some mention of discussions after he acknowledged the ceasefire. There was some mention of the discussions that lie ahead and some mention of water arrangements as well. Now, as India negotiates the terms of this ceasefire, would you expect more pressure from the Pakistani side to, let's say, reinstate the Indus Water Treaty? And how would you think that India can best navigate these issues that are bound to perhaps come up?
There would certainly be efforts by Pakistan to persuade India to reinstate the Indus Water Treaty, and in all probability, India will hold back until it sees demonstrable action on terrorism by Pakistan. But having said that, I think the bigger question is whether India is in a position to begin talks at all or not, or whether the US has overplayed its hand, overstated the fact that there is an agreement, not the fact, but overstated that there is an agreement on reopening of talks in a third place. It is still early days. I think yesterday events moved very fast. Not many people even noticed that there was this line also in the kind of understanding which was being tweeted out by Secretary Marco Rubio, and then subsequently confirmed by Pakistanis as part of their understanding. India had till now taken a position that it will not engage in direct talks with Pakistan unless there is action on the terror front, unless some of India's demands on in the fight against terrorism are met by Pakistan.
Absolutely.
So is India ready to change all those positions? Are we opening a new chapter? We will have to wait and see.
Ambassador Rajamony, just another question on the Chinese statement. I wonder if you caught that, because on the face of it, it did acknowledge the terrorist act at Pahalgam, and it did condemn it. And we know that China plays a very, very significant role in the region. Your thoughts on the China angle to all this?
Well, the Chinese have been putting out a number of statements including the latest one yesterday, I think they have played a delicate balancing act in their relations between Pakistan and India. If you notice their statements, they were always forthright in their condemnation of the Pahalgam terrorist incident. And that conforms to their overall position in terms of the fight against terrorism. China's own Xinjiang province has been threatened by Islamic militancy in the past. It borders Pakistan, Afghanistan, Central Asia, many of which are countries which are where there have been a history of large-scale terrorist activities in the past. So China has condemned the Pahalgam incident strongly, but at the same time, it was also quick to regret the Indian action within Pakistan, India's effort to go into Pakistan and destroy the terrorist bases there to target terrorists operating out of there. China has repeatedly called for peace and stability. It has called for de-escalation and the exercise of restraint by both sides. I think China is very clear that a war between India and Pakistan is not in its interest in any way. It will create a lot of instability in the neighborhood, and that can only have negative consequences for China.
Absolutely. Ambassador Rajamony, I mean, may I ask a very direct question, sir? And you're a veteran of these issues and affairs. Diplomacy is a very delicate operation, right? But I think India, in the last 48 or 72 hours, has seen the duality of diplomacy, perhaps, and global alliances also lay absolutely threadbare. The US initially saying that they'll not be involved, and then they get involved, and they issue a statement even before the Indian side can issue one. China, like you're describing, I mean, playing both hands, so to speak. And similarly, a lot of the countries with Saudi Arabia. So the duality of it all, I think we knew it all along, but it's on full display. And a lot of people will wonder then if strong military action can really get us the answers that we have been seeking for decades. Let's get Mr. Rajamony, and then maybe we'll get General Singh to respond to that. Ambassador Rajamony?
Yes. You want me to answer, or is General Singh going to answer?
Yes, sir. Let's hear your thoughts first.
I think military solutions are not easy. They are not foolproof, and they don't often produce the results that you seek. That is one reason why India has not chosen to act so aggressively as it has done in this instance or in Balakot. Or previously, we have had a policy of, even when we have gone across the border and acted, not to publicize it so that the country on the other side is not forced to respond or to come up and try and defend themselves in the eyes of their own public. So, yes, military is not an answer at all points. Diplomacy has to work, and ultimately, whatever be the military solution, you will come back to diplomacy to pull the threads together again. But having said that, terrorism, especially the kind of cross-border terrorism that India has faced, has been extremely difficult for India to handle. We have tried every possible manner of dealing with it and not succeeded. So we can only hope to try and combine some amount of strong arm tactics along with diplomacy. I think you cannot afford to give up one or the other. Through the last 4 days, we have conveyed a very strong message to Pakistan. We have conveyed a very strong message to the terrorists who operate out of Pakistan. But have we succeeded in eliminating terrorism or making sure that India will never again be targeted? No, we have not been able to do that. And the next steps perhaps has to involve the diplomacy along in whatever manner. It may not be direct, it can be through third parties, it can be unofficial channels, which are never discussions which are never publicized, as have happened both during Prime Minister Vajpayee's time and Dr. Manmohan Singh's time. So a variety of options are there, but that needs to be combined with converting of India into a fortress India. After 9/11, the US has never had a major terrorist attack within the US because it built itself into a fortress America. So that is the only way you can prevent terrorism or major terrorist attacks within India over the long term. And that is where all our efforts have to go. We must make sure that another Pahalgam never again happens.
Sir, if I can request you to stay with us, let me also get in General Singh at this point. General Singh, my last question to you, and thank you so much for being patient with us. My last question to you would be, what is the lesson from India out of this intense military action that we've seen with Pakistan over the last 3 days? Perhaps this is the most heightened level of conflict that we've seen post-Kargil. When it comes to our military preparedness now, what are the big lessons for the future?
Firstly, Parikshit, I would like to say that ceasefire has to be earned and not handed over. That means Pakistan seeking ceasefire, it should then accept defeat, and India should not give it on a plate. It is not handed over. Second, I have given some examples of the past. I recall we should not do what we did, handing over 93,000 prisoners of war without anything in return. We have to be the state which we have come into, a strong will, a strong projection of military power. And our comprehensive national power is overwhelmingly in our favor vis-a-vis Pakistan. Now, the China factor was also discussed in the last issue, and the military. Well, I will say there's a seesaw battle on in the geopolitical field. There are talks on for the tariff between the US and the Chinese. And if you see, Trump 2.0 administration having come, China became little moderate, reaching out to India for coming back to the table to discuss, because they were hit by the tariff 145%. Now, if this agreement is reached, let us see what color China also shows. So we have to be very guarded on that. Now, what we have to do, if I have to speak as a military man, the military is an instrument of national security. We say that there's no solution without diplomacy and the political statement at the end. Yes, I fully agree. But we have tried. We have tried military, we have tried political, we have tried geostrategic, everything, and the Kashmir affair. Where do we stand? We still bleed. So these sort of movements, ideologues and ideologies, they never fade away. India has to live with it. India has to find ways to live with it, with whatever comfort zone we can create. Now, lastly, what are the options? Once again, I will say, be proactive. We must extend the arc of surgical strikes in Pakistan. That option we should retain. We must now continue with our maritime dominance, which we have done in the Arabian Sea. And there should be some tightening of in and out movement towards Karachi. Next is air corridors. We must have a control on that also. Strong words, strong will, I'm projecting, and why not? So I think with that, I will say that India has to remain in the narrow lane of caution with offensive spirit of every Indian. We have to be shoulder to shoulder with each other.
My final question to Ambassador Rajamony as well. Ambassador Rajamony, the learnings from this diplomatic team. Pakistan is often able to build a lot of sympathy for itself globally. The IMF bailout, as you said, may have been an off-ramp for them. But how do we make sure that there is a diplomatic cost to any kind of misadventure, terror action against India? Where do you think our PR machinery, our propaganda machinery, and the reason why I'm saying this, because over the last 3 days, we've seen extensive propaganda from the Pakistani side, and the Indian government has done a fantastic job of countering it. But going ahead in future, how do you think we can launch a stronger diplomatic campaign so that there is greater awareness in the world about Pakistan's actions?
Well, I don't think we need a major propaganda campaign. What happens within Pakistan, the kind of economic crisis it is in, the role of the military, the presence of terrorists within Pakistan who target not only India but target the Pakistani government itself, can target other countries, like Osama bin Laden was ultimately captured within Pakistan. So all this is fairly well known. Even today, opposition leader Imran Khan is in jail, and there is trouble in Balochistan that is also well known. So I don't think India needs to demean itself by trying to go out and campaign against Pakistan. In contrast, for India, it is our domestic economic success story which is our best advertisement. The fact that India has steadily grown, India has maintained political stability, and India is playing a constructive role in international affairs as a peacemaker, for example, in our efforts between Russia and Ukraine, or in our various contributions to the UN. All this is more than advertisement for India itself. We don't need a PR campaign, and I don't think these are ultimately won or lost based on PR campaign. What we need to do is to continue to do what we are doing well, which is focus within, make sure our economy continues to grow, bring foreign investments in, deal with challenges like what was posed to us by President Trump, but for which we are now engaged in discussions on a trade agreement. We have just concluded a trade agreement with UK. So we need to focus on our economic growth story. But at the same time, I would add that that economic growth would not be sustainable unless it is inclusive. We cannot afford to forget poverty reduction. We cannot afford to forget the need to extend education and health to every corner of our country, to build world-class infrastructure, to address problems like air pollution and water pollution. So we have a huge set of tasks ahead of us within our country at a time when world circumstances are very challenging. If we continue to focus on them, if we continue to become a success in it, automatically we will run head and shoulder ahead of Pakistan, which we already are. And that itself will convey whatever we need to convey to the world. So we don't have to engage in a propaganda war.
All right.
Sorry, if I can quickly add one more thing. But at the same time, we must also accept and address domestic challenges wherever we get. We must ensure social harmony within the country. We must ensure that our people are completely united and are not divided in the name of religion or language or caste or any other means. And where there are burning issues or where there are issues like Kashmir, which has remained on the agenda, or where there is a border dispute with China, which has remained on the agenda for decades and decades and decades, we need to find solutions in the manner solutions were attempted in the past, whether during Prime Minister Vajpayee's time, whether during Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's time, or whether even in the early stages of the Prime Minister Modi's first term.
Absolutely. All right, Ambassador Rajamony, we will leave it on that note. Thank you very much for joining in with your thoughts and perspective on the situation that has been sort of transpiring over the last couple of hours. Let's also